This is my Mk3 Volkswagen GTI. In today's video, I'm going to take you through the process of putting a North American Mk3 into what VW calls service position. It's super helpful if you need to access the radiator to replace it, or if you're dealing with components on the front of the engine that would normally be tough to get to. With just a few steps, you can remove the entire nose of your Mk3 Jetta, Golf, GTI, or Cabrio in one complete unit. Here's how to do it.
So the first step would be to remove the battery negative. I have the battery completely removed because I have the tray out to refinish it. So the next step is going to be to remove some electrical connections that are underneath here. So you're going to take out the 3 bolts right there, and there with an 8mm socket. Now we did that so we could remove the barrel connector for the headlight harness that's right underneath this hump. It's clipped in and it pulls right out, and there's also a few other connectors. You have the coolant temperature sensor on the side of the radiator right there, and the radiator fan right there, the coolant fans. This is the connector for the headlight harness and basically the entire front clip. So it's split right there, and you're going to hold each side and twist it counterclockwise to release it. Now my instructions are assuming that no one's ever been in here before, so you might find some zip ties or some stuff like that that hasn't been noted from the factory. So here's a good example. It's really hard unless you've done this a few times. This wire that stays with the body, the female side that's going to stay with the body, isn't run the right way. It should be run up and over top of here, and this wire for the headlight harness should be run on the opposite side of it. So if I try to pull it out, they're going to get crossed and tangled. You don't want to have to deal with that while you're holding the whole entire nose off, and then you got a couple crossed wires. So this is really something that you start to learn after you've done it a few times. If the car is stock, this shouldn't be an issue. If someone's been in there moving stuff around, it's just something to look out for. Now this, which goes to the fan and the headlight, should have been run over top of the radiator of the coolant line, just like that. So now, with it out of the way, I can pull. See, the whole entire thing is its own wire, and it's not tangled up in any of this. This that goes to your headlights, see, it's also, it's hard to show, but it's also fed the wrong way there. So you want to have this harness that's going to be run along the frame rail. This should be able to be pulled completely out of the way, be off to the side, and not entangled with any of your headlight wires. Now see, oh, you know what? I believe that is incorrect as well. Yeah, we're not going to be able to pull the whole thing out. So just because this was run, now this goes to your side marker, turn signal, headlight. Normally you can leave your headlights connected. These aren't connected at the moment. So all of this stuff is going to come out, but your fans and your AC are going to stay. So there's no way for this to come backwards. So this needs to be on the opposite side of there. So I am going to, normally wouldn't have to do this if the car is completely stock, but I am going to have to go underneath and disconnect this end of the headlight wiring. So now in a normal situation, you wouldn't have to do this. You could see some tape from where someone else was in here marking wires. This is the headlight, the turn signal, and the side bumper light. You wouldn't normally have to remove these parts. This should be able to stay. The only reason I'm removing it is because the wiring wasn't run in the OEM location. The OEM location, this would be on top of the line for the AC and then run in a way that it would be attached to this whole thing. Minor inconvenience, but something to look out for on both sides. Everything on this side looks good at first glance, so now we're going to go ahead and remove the hood latch. I am going to take off, this isn't stock, this is an aftermarket eyebrow, so I'm going to remove this just so I can have better access to the hood latch. So it's not the whole entire latch we need to remove, we just need to remove the cable that's coming in right there. I just like to use a long, big flat blade screwdriver, and if you wedge it right behind there, you can kind of push it out of its track, and then if you need to, you can get in and also pull it off the ball end. Looks like it came off pretty easily, and then it'll fit through this opening. And there's normally a retaining clip clipped into this hole, so you may need to reach underneath and pinch the little ends, or just kind of offset it and pull that clip off. So you can get this out, and then it comes right through there. It'll only fit through sideways. There we go. And then once that is out of the way, actually, here's one of the clips right here. This one is normally in this position on the underside, so you just see these little tabs showing up through there. And when it comes out, it's the opposite way, and this is holding it on just like that. The next step is to remove with a 13 mil socket this and this. These are not real bolts, they're pins that sit in the top of the radiator and keep the radiator from tilting forward or backwards. So it's a threads, but then there's just a straight pin on the bottom side. You can see it's got threads, and then it's a pin that just fits in a little slot in the top of the radiator. Now for this next step, we're going to take a 10 mil socket and an 8 mil socket and remove two 10s and an 8 on each side, and that's going to disconnect the top of the radiator support. It's not as important when you're taking it off, but when you're putting it back on, it's a good idea to take some blue painter's tape and just tape up this whole area, because there's a good chance when you're trying to manhandle everything back on that you get a little off kilter and you have a chance of scratching things. So if you give a shit about your car, protect that part. That should come out normally, but it's not for some reason. Huh. I guess the threaded hole is not threaded anymore. That was the 8 mil. The 8 mil on each side. The 10s came out just fine. So that does need to come off. So there we go. Just had to pull up on it. Huh. I'm just going to put a little weight on it with the blade of the screwdriver underneath so I don't scratch anything. There we go. It just wasn't catching the threads, as in this hole is a little too big, so it's not backing itself out. Again, minor things you're going to run into when working on a car that's been modified. These should normally just come out very easily. There we go. And you do need to get them out, because if not, you're just going to run a bolt and scrape it down the entire top edge of the fender. It's covered up by the fender, so it's not that big of a deal, but so now the top is completely loose. We're going to focus on the front and a couple things on the sides. If your car is ultra stock, you're going to have a splash shield on each side that connects to the front of the lip on the factory lip and goes to a connection somewhere on the back. So you're going to have two screws. I'm not sure if they're Phillips or Torx, but don't forget to remove them before you start pulling everything off. Now it's very hard to see, but inside of the bumper there's two pins. My car does not have the factory pins. These are going to be a little easier to remove because you can just stick a screwdriver and pull the center part of the pin out. The The ones that are here from the factory, there's an outside and there's a central pin down the middle. A little trick I was going to show you guys, but I can't do it because I don't have them. Take a bent pick and then just take the center. Don't try to pry them out because they just don't pry out easily. Take a bent pick and push that center part all the way in. When you push it in far enough, it's going to drop down. It'll drop into your bumper. It should get caught probably right under the edge of the lower lip, if it's a factory lip, right on that top little edge by the clips. You'll find them. They're in there somewhere. They're accessible. But I'm going to go ahead and take a little screwdriver and then just pop 2 on each side here. So now there's only 4 more bolts holding the front end on. They're behind the reflectors. They go through the bumper rebar, the metal reinforcement bar, into the front of the vehicle, onto the end of the frame rail. So you're going to want to take a pry tool and pop your reflectors out. And there's a 13 here and here on each one that you're going to want to get to with an extension. Once you have these loose, the whole front end is going to be loose, so just be ready for it. Now before you undo the last bolt, you really want to make sure that everything is clear and ready to be out of the way for when you pull this. And also make sure you have a good spot to place this. It gets kind of awkward. You can't really sit the nose down on the bottom edge. You got to kind of lean it on the back edge of the bumper and tilt it back. So have a blanket, do it in the grass, something like that, just so you don't scratch the back edges of the bumper. So now once I release this last one, the whole nose is ready to come off. You just want to make sure everything's clear. You didn't miss anything. These wires are a little tangled here. Oh, you also want to unclip the AC line. Is just in a clip. There's looks like a 10 mil right here. That's just got a C-clip that clips on your top hose. So it should all just come off. Yeah, see, I have a problem with how the wiring was ran. It was ran up and over by the evap canister and the receiver dryer or whatever it's called for the AC. So I can't pull everything out. Oh, and then also, I did forget, you also have to unclip the horns. There's 2 horns under here that stay with the car. I only have one. I have 2 horns, but no, I have 1 horn. I guess there's just 1. So now I am going to have to go ahead and unclip a couple wires that normally wouldn't have to come off to do this. You could just, with the bulbs, there's a lot of water in there. Weird. With the turn signal bulbs, you could just undo the bulb from the entire housing. So now everything's disconnected. So if you sit it like this, there's a good chance it's going to tip over because it's heavy in the front. So it's best to keep it stored like that. And here's what I was talking about when someone's been in there. This harness should have stayed with the clip. There shouldn't have been any reason for this to all be in here, just basically because this wire was run through there instead of up and through here. If it's not through there, you can't pull. You can't pass it through. And then the horn was also, the horn definitely does need to be disconnected. But other than that, you now have full access to work on the front of the vehicle. I was right, it's been a while. There are 2 horns. The other horn is right here. These connectors get stuck sometimes. So when they do get stuck, just take the entire clip off and then the connector will come right off. The problem is that you're not able to squeeze these hard enough to release them from the top of these tabs. So just go ahead and then you could put it back together.
Now, at first glance, you might think, how does this get me more access to the front of the engine when the radiator is still in the same place? VW engineers back in the day actually thought about future repairs, unlike BMW engineers of today, so you can swing everything up front out of the way. And if you pull the AC compressor off the engine, you gain even more room. Pretty clever, and it gives you a ton of space to access parts like the oil cooler or the crack pipe. I did a bunch of work to get my GTI back up and running for a get-together we recently had. Sadly, we lost a member of the local VW community named Brian Botzel. Brian was an awesome dude and was a huge part of the air and water-cooled VW scene here in St. Augustine, Florida. He'll be missed by anyone that's ever met him, and I'm glad that I got to spend time with him talking about VW's past projects and just life in general. Life is too short not to enjoy, and Brian made the most out of every minute. Keep grinding away on those projects, stay lucid, and I'll see you in the next one.